listening to the Rival and Queen podcast. I'm Ashley.
And I'm Sarah.
Welcome, everyone. Happy Thursday.
Happy. I feel like I was just like lurching. I want to say happy Thursday. So happy Thursday, everyone.
Another Thursday. We're into the second week almost now of July, which is crazy.
I am so happy it's my birthday month. All the good things are coming. I don't like horoscopes, but the one that I read was like, this is a magical month for me. So I'm all into it.
Yeah, your horoscope for the day last week when you read that, and then of course for the month, was super accurate, I think, Sarah.
I know last week Ashley read me my horoscope one day. I was in a weird mood and we might have recorded something on that day, but anyways, and it was like, you are tired and should go to sleep and have no important conversations. And I was so whiny. I was such a baby. And it was like, yes, I need to just go to bed. And that's what I did. So,
are you feeling better?
Well, no. And then that night I didn't fall asleep till 5:30 in the morning and we got up and golfed the next day. So I just, I don't know. I don't like horoscopes. I love all things magical, but I feel like they're not connected to me for some reason.
Well, I hate to break it to you, Sarah, because they are, because I feel like we're all connected to them, but we need to learn more about them. Well, I really hope you like your birthday gift that I got you.
Dear God, please tell me it's not a horoscope reading. I'm just joking.
It's not, but
okay. But on this point, so actually, if anyone knows like someone who's really good at astrology or like really into horoscopes or moons, could you write us through Instagram or email us? Because we want to have someone on the podcast because, as I said, I don't understand horoscopes. For some reason, they're not my jam. I want to learn more.
Yeah. I know what you mean though. Sometimes if I read it and it's something that I just don't want to happen, or I just don't think kind of like is in my vibe of that day or that week, I just kind of toss it to the side. But then other days it's so true. So I feel like, I mean, it can't be the same for every single person in each, what is it called? Like category or straw. I don't know. I'm kind of perplexed by it, Sarah. So we need to learn more.
It just puts me in the wrong headspace. Like it's like, if it tells me I'm going to have trouble in this thing, then I'm like anticipating that. Whereas even if I did have trouble in whatever the situation that the horoscope is telling me about, I rather it come as it is and I can handle it in that moment and it doesn't bother me as much. I don't know. It just puts me on like this weird expectation road that I don't like.
Yeah, I get it.
I want to give you an update, Ashley, a couple updates. Sure. On my 32 days of Pilates. I forgot what it was called. For everyone listening, I'm still going on this 32-day challenge for my birthday. Will I make it? We don't know. I think I'm at 16 out of 32. So I'm halfway there. I've missed a couple days, I think 2 or 3 days. So I've got a couple double headers coming up and we'll see how motivated I am about those.
But at least that, I think you can do it because we did a class this morning and we didn't do a ton of upper body, Sarah. So today could be just throw on like a 15-20 minute upper body workout and just check one off.
I appreciate that. I appreciate that motivation. Maybe I will. So I will say today is the first time we went back into the studio and I've been doing all my workouts online and like I missed the studio. I kind of didn't realize it, but it goes by so much faster. And you're not distracted. Like when I'm outside, I'm a bit too hot or like, you know, the birds are chirping.
Yeah, it is nice to be surrounded by people and physically walk into the studio. And I think there were a few small changes, though COVID, they had to rearrange stuff, but I felt like it was a whole new world. Everything looked different just because it's been months.
I know. I really did miss being in studio. So for anyone who's listening, if you haven't gone back into the gym, it is kind of a night. It's just a treat. Even if you're not going to go every time, I highly recommend it. I'm still going to do most of my workouts, I think, online, but I did buy a pass. And I know that, you know what, even just to see your face, Ash, in person, see Nicola in person, she's our instructor, or Anna in person, who's on the episode today. She's also a fantastic fitness instructor. We're all about it.
That's actually how we met Anna.
It is.
It's through Rio.
It is through Rio. Before we dive into Anna, though, I just want to talk about one thing, and then we'll tell everyone about how wonderful Anna Townsend is, who is our guest today. Ashley, this weekend we did Adult Field Day.
Yeah.
a Sarita Olympics. We went away for the weekend to Chester and with a group of friends and did like this adult field day, which was so much fun.
So
And like
fun.
the sun came out. What was your favorite game that we played?
I really liked the Jeopardy game, but it wasn't really Jeopardy. Let's call it trivia because
Teresa.
my team won that game. So that was super fun. But I loved, yeah, as you just said, Sarah, the sun came out. It ended up being a beautiful afternoon. So it was really fun. I really enjoyed Flip Cup. It's been a long time since I played, and I just thought that was so fun, and everyone was so into it.
Oh my gosh, I love playing Flip Cup. Yeah, so this was a like field day for a friend's birthday. So Katie, who I live with, as many of our listeners know, we love you guys. She made this Jeopardy, but God love her. So here's what I'll say: I had so much fun. An event like that brings out only my worst qualities. I'm far too competitive. I told Katie she was a cheater, like, and that she had no morals a number of times. I also told your husband, Ashley, that he was a cheater, which is actually true.
Yeah,
Jeff
you have to watch
Keel
him.
is a cheater. So if you are ever in competition with him, pay attention because he'll be bending those rules.
Yeah, he takes advantage if rules aren't explicitly put out there and very stern. He's like, "Well, I could probably try it this way, and that will get me there."
Has Jeff ever won any sportsmanship awards? We'll have to go back
I
and
don't
review
know.
all
I think
those.
he probably has, but I mean, you can't really cheat in profession or in sports when there's referees.
That's
When there's
true.
not referees, he gonna cheat.
You better watch him. So it didn't bring out any of our best qualities. And God love Katie. She made this amazing trivia game, like Ashley said, based on one of our friends, Sarah, for her birthday. And I was like, I want this for my birthday too. And last night, she's so sweet. She's like, should I make any changes to the game so it was not to upset you on
Is she
your
gonna make it for
birthday?
your birthday?
Yeah.
Amazing. No, I think she did an excellent job. There was great categories, great questions. So I think she should keep it rolling.
Yeah, I told her, I was like, no, despite me giving you a lot of shit about it on the day of that the rules were not proper, I was like, it's actually a wonderful thing. And when we step away from me being bossy and too competitive, I was like, I
Well,
think this
and
is a
this
wonderful
one
thing
will
you
also
created.
be about you. So you'll be in a totally different headspace.
Yeah, I won't have to compete
Exactly.
or have an opportunity to win. I
We
think,
love it. We love friendly competition.
but it does bring back reminders that Katie and I should never be on different teams. And yeah, anyways, we just need to be aware of how we behave in those situations. I was very stressed that whole day. If anyone is looking for a fun idea, though, you should do it. I think this is like a great fun summer activity. Ashley, who do we have on the podcast today?
This week we have Anna Townsend, who, as we just mentioned, we met Anna through Rio, part of our studio. She taught bar, a bit of Pilates, but Sarah and I really were obsessed with her bar classes because she just has the most vivacious energy and smile. And her music was always killer. And I always went having fun. It didn't feel like a workout necessarily. So that was really one of the things that that got me into bar at Rio, and as well as Anna. But now she has her own gyms. She's the owner of the Fitness Room in Halifax, which we need to go now that we can attend classes, Sarah, and check that out. And she was just a lovely person. We had a great conversation about kind of shifting your mindset around fitness and nutrition. And it's not necessarily about the number on the scale, but how you feel. What's your why? Why do you want to change? Why do you want to improve? And Anna, as well as us, Sarah, have struggled with a lot of different kind of like self-image things and kind of goals. And I really like Anna's approach to kind of like looking back at that and figuring out why. Why do you want to look like that person in a magazine? What is that going to fulfill you? And kind of how do you take care of yourself?
Yeah, so as Ash said, we absolutely love Anna from Bar, which is frigging dope. And I looked up today the songs that always make me think of her. She always used to play the song Say It and Never Be Like You by Flume. And still, if I hear those songs, I think of Anna. And just as like a recap, as Ash said, this episode is totally about rethinking self-image and how we approach fitness and dieting. And rather than it trying to be a specific goal, really actually learning what's right for our bodies. And one of my favorite parts of this conversation we talk about is intuitive eating and how we actually like tune into what our bodies want and approach self-image that way. And, taking care of ourselves. So it's a nice, it's a nice conversation for
And it's so
everyone.
relatable. I think that everyone has been on a diet or has started a new fitness trend or routine, and maybe it worked, maybe it didn't. Maybe you found something like Sarah and I, which is Pilates and bar and yoga, and that really fulfills us. But I think that that's the hardest thing, that people don't find something that they enjoy when it comes to being active, and then it's more stressful, and I think that can do kind of more harm to your mind and your body. And I also love her talking about kind of how to stand up for yourself and kind of make a stance on what you want and don't want. Like Sarah, I know that we kind of talked about
If you say ice cream again
no,
now,
not just that. Like I was thinking about Anna being, because she was a vegan and she still eats primarily plant-based, and you're always kind of getting outside influence on what you should be eating, or you're not eating enough. And I think it's really hard for us to kind of like stick to what we believe if hers is kind of
it's
a
all
more
about
vegan
tuning
lifestyle.
into your body.
Yeah. And doing what's right for you and what feels good for you.
Yes. So today we're going to tune in. We're going to figure out how to do that. If you do want to follow Anna, you can do it in two places. She's fantastic at Anna Townsend Fit on Instagram. And I'm going to mess this
The
up. So I want
Fitness Room HFX.
yes, the Fitness Room HFX. So follow Anna on Instagram. You can also get your first class at the Fitness Room for free. So you should do that. You can come with Ash and I if you want. We'd love you to join. We're going to go see Anna because we miss her. And I just can't wait to raise my arms up above my head. I remember the moves.
Same.
So
that brings me so much joy when I hear that song and that memory.
we're doing it. All right, Ash, let's dive in and hear from Anna.
Let's do it. She is all about self-love, making food, working out, taking care of her kids. Anna, welcome. We're so excited to have you. And I don't know, how long has it been since we've known you? 2 years or something?
Oh
probably?
my gosh. It might even be longer because time flies. But I mean, my studio is going on, it's past its 1 year. And
Wow.
yeah. And I think, yeah, we've known each other for like 3 or 4 years when you guys used to come to my bar class at Rio.
Yes.
Nice.
And now seeing you with your beautiful blonde hair and your top knot, it makes me miss your face.
Old days.
The old days. And I can remember the original Rio studio that Sarah and I went to all the time. And it was so fun. And you made me really fall in love with bar. Like your energy and music, Sarah, wasn't it the best?
Oh my God. We still have like your playlists that come on and we're like, Anna.
You guys are really good at bar.
Thank you.
You are. I remember being like, wow, they're really good at bar.
I think because we enjoy it so much, maybe it just comes off like that.
You did make us love it. Like we would go to bar with you every Monday. I'm pretty sure.
I know it was. Yes. Mondays. Yeah. Mondays used to be my killer day. I used to teach like 5 classes on Mondays.
It never seemed like a workout. It just seemed so fun. I loved it.
So fun. Time flies when you're in that little room.
I know. And then our butts got nice. So it was a nice little bonus.
Yeah, exactly.
I figured that. Well, we're so happy to have you on the podcast today. It's such a treat
to be here.
Reconnect in this way.
Yes. Hang out again virtually without sweating.
Yeah. And since we've seen you, like, yeah, you've got your own studio now.
Yeah.
The Fitness Room. Tell us all about it.
Well, I was thinking today, I was like, because I was thinking about, we're going to talk about nutrition that you love, movement that you love. And I was like, what do I love about working out? And so much of it is my environment. Like I fell in love, like I loved Rio. I love like boutique studios, and it's everything from like the way it smells to the equipment to, all of it makes me like working out. So sometimes it's like when people do like these like gritty, like in the mud workouts outdoors, I'm like, that just would not motivate me to work out. Like everyone has their own thing. So that's always part of my advice, is find something that you love in a space that you love.
Oh my gosh.
That's so true.
Ashley knows this, and everyone listening, if you're new here, this will be the first time you've heard this. I can only basically get myself to work out because I'm like, if I can start lying down, then I'm like, I can show up. And that's
Yeah.
what I love about like Pilates and even bars.
Yes.
Sometimes you start on the floor, sitting down. I'm like,
Yeah.
I can get
Even
into
just
this.
moving. Yes, I've heard you say that on your podcast before, and it's so true. It's like, for me, it's like I like all those little things. Like, I love the boutique experience. And I want to feel like I'm leaving my house and I'm kind of like going to the spa or something. Like, I'm going to chat with some cool people. I'm going to go to my mat that's going to be nice and clean, and I'm going to do my workout, and then I'm going to go feeling like refreshed. I don't really like maybe like I used to maybe like to get my ass kicked years ago. Now it's like I like to do it, but I like to feel productive and like I got like a nice little time to myself.
That's such a good way to put it. I feel
Yeah.
that way about even when I travel and you go by a whole
Mm-hmm.
studio, you know that smell of the yoga studio?
Like the essential oils.
Yeah, you can just smell in a bit of the heat. It has that spa vibe.
Yeah.
Oh, who doesn't want to go into one of those and work out? So I feel your vibe on kind of creating a space and a time that's for you. And I love that. We need to come to the
Yeah.
fitness room and check it out.
Yes. It's everything I want. That's what I would say. It's everything I want in a fitness studio.
Good. That's great.
Yeah.
We like your vibe. I'm down for the workout sanctuary.
Yes, totally. And even if like you couldn't afford a studio, so it kind of sounds like, maybe pretentious to say like, oh, it's got to be this beautiful boutique studio. But I was thinking about it in my head and I was like, you know what? Like, even when I used to do YouTube videos, afford a boutique studio, I used to love the ones where the background was nice, or there was like a pretty mat, or the girl had a nice out. Like, I love that feel. I like my workout to take me to this place that's like a nice experience. So that's like kind of like, even if you can't, like, even if you set up a little corner of your apartment or something, or even just bought a really pretty yoga mat that you liked and a pretty water bottle, and you can kind of make your own little sanctuary too.
Yeah. I think that
Yeah.
I've heard that before, even about the outfit that you wear when you work out, that you should
Mm-hmm.
invest in good workout gear that makes you feel good. So you're not just kind of feeling like sloppy and going into your workout. You feel good about going
Totally.
and what you're in. So,
I
Anna,
love
how
Yeah.
that.
have you started in the fitness world? You've taught Pilates bar, now you own your own studio. So kind of where
Yeah.
did this begin?
So I started, oh my gosh, I was like, this is so part of my journey too, because I started as like one of those personal trainers that was like, carbs are bad. And just, I'm 39 now. And I think I started working in my first gym when I was going to university in Ottawa. I went to Carleton. So I went away. I'm from Halifax, but I went away for university. And as a side job, I started working in the gym and teaching aerobics and stuff like that, like seniors aerobics and like old school, like grapevine clap.
My favorite. I
It's
love
so
old
good. I know. I actually just stopped teaching that style like last year. And my members were like, no, why are you leaving? I was like, I just can't keep up with the choreography.
like old school step class
Yeah.
too. Also my
Yeah.
favorite.
Like old school stuff. So I was teaching there, and then I got my degree in communications, and I never really left the fitness industry. I just loved it so much. I love having somewhere to go. Like, again, it's like this environment. I loved getting on my workout gear, going and being in a healthy environment. I love structure. So I just like the structure that the fitness industry brings. So once I came home, I started bartending, but I was still teaching, and I was working at Good Life. I worked there for a long time, actually, and I would leave and then come back and leave and come back. But I had worked on my own several times, going to people's houses as a trainer. I just fell in love with the fitness industry and the flexibility of it. I like working random hours. I like making my own schedule. I don't have a Monday because I teach on Saturdays. It's like, I like my business to integrate into my life, and they're just kind of like my life, not really one separate from the other. Yeah. But I was teaching body pump and all those Les Mills classes, RPM, all kinds of spin. I loved teaching. I love group fitness.
How the hell did you keep up with the choreography of it? Because now that you're talking about like you did
So many
aerobics
classes.
and now you're talking about all these different classes, they are all
my gosh.
different. And like,
I have been in car accidents because I've been learning so much choreography. Like,
Oh my God.
because with Les Mills, which is they're an international fitness company. I think they're part of Beachbody now too. Like, they're on demand. I don't teach Les Mills anymore. I wish I really do love what Les Mills, but it's licensed. So I think Good Life owned the Canadian rights to it. And it's definitely, you can't just teach it. You have to be with a licensed company to use it. But I used to get my notes. They would send you your music, your notes, like your choreography notes, and you would have to memorize it all and then learn it and teach it. And they would do these big releases every 3 months. So I would have to learn spin, body pump, body flow. I had like a couple others. So I would just be studying these choreography notes and listening to like electronic music in my car, trying to like get to my class. So my kids were like, they've seen me, like I'd be like practicing an arm movement, like up, down, close, to like some like dubstep.
I guess now
But
you get the freedom to make your own classes.
yeah, once I stopped having to learn choreography, I was just like, wow, I'm so much happier.
Totally.
Yeah.
Now I just pick my own music.
Yeah, it is hard. Like, I think about that, and you don't think about when you just show up, but the odd time that I do think about like the work that fitness like teachers have to do to get ready for a class. Like, we're just seeing the finished product, but you've come up with what we're doing, and oh my God, matching music. God love you.
Yeah, there is a lot. And like, even all the spin studios you go to, like, they pick their playlist, they choreograph every single song, and we do too. Like, we choreograph every spin song. But now what I like about being independent and not being with, say, like a licensed company, is we can pick our own music and like, I like to think it's like an art. It's like movement art. You're combining music with movement to make this like amazing experience that people can connect to. And I've like moved to tears with like the right choreography and the right song. So to me, it's a deeper experience, and I love it.
I can relate to that, Sarah. You know the songs I'm talking about that still remind us of Anna. I'm like, I can just feel it from my head to my toes.
There's a Flume song that we like love.
I know there's two.
Yeah.
I
love
that.
the Flume song. And then like
So
Sia
good.
had some really good hits back then, and I would like
There's
go
some
on
Lady
stage.
Gaga.
Yeah, Lady Gaga. Oh, so many good.
I'm still just remembering the warm up right now. So you have been a lifetime dedicated fitness teacher of every kind.
Serious.
That's insane. I don't even know how you've done it.
I feel like I'm like 800 years old.
Well, you're not.
That's not true. So for anyone who's not watching this and is listening, Anna's fabulous looking.
No,
and in good, amazing shape.
She's in amazing shape and looks beautiful all the time.
Oh, you guys are so sweet. See, that keeps me going.
So in addition to the fitness, like coaching and things like that, like you've also brought nutrition and health into it. How did that come into play?
That really came when I was a personal trainer in my early 20s. It was always the nutrition that would stop people from seeing results. So they would work so hard in the gym. And if they were lucky, for some people genetically, working out really is all they need. And they're just lucky people, or, you know, I don't even know if I want to put it like that, but those are their genetics. And then there's people that really need to hone in on their nutrition. And for me, I was almost living a double life for a long time, because I was bartending and, you know, hanging, like my weekends were completely a wreck. And then Mondays would be like, oh, you know, put on my personal training hat, and I would just be, you know, Miss Healthy for the week. But I started to feel that wasn't aligning. And I really got into my own personal health and wellness and started wanting to take it to the next level, because I realized that I wasn't really happy with my results either. I was training a lot, but I wasn't doing anything to heal any of the workouts. So, you know, if you're going to be exercise can put your body into a stress state, especially if you're doing exercise the way that I was, where I was doing a lot of the body pumps and the high intensity, and I would sprint like at full pace on the treadmill. And then, you know, to then on the weekend, you just like polluting yourself. I started to realize, like, I don't really actually feel that good, considering I'm a fitness professional and I'm, you know, wanting to feel and look my best. So I really started honing in on my nutrition, which meant being more plant-based, eating a lot more vegetables, all of that stuff. And my digestion and skin were also actually a mess. That was one thing that I remember I would always be covering up. I would get hormonal acne around my chin area, and I would be covering up with makeup, and that would make it worse. So I knew something had to change in my diet, my lifestyle. So I ended up getting a certification from Southern California. I called it Institute of Transformational Nutrition. And the reason why I kind of went this route, because it really talked about the psychological aspects of eating instead of just, in dietitian, I'm sure I know they probably talk about psychological aspects as well. But for me, I wanted something just a little more holistic and a little more out of the box. I love following like extreme athletes and vegans. And I just kind of wanted to like dive into something like super out there.
I love that.
I was like, I don't want like 8 grapes and a mini yogurt. I'm like, I want to go on a juice, like blends or something, but not that I do those now. But there was just so many different things I wanted to explore in nutrition. So I really dove in, and I've been really exploring nutrition for the last 10 plus years. And one of the things that's really come up is just the psychological aspect.
Okay. Tell us
tell us
more about that.
What does that mean?
Yeah, for me, it was really with my clients when I was working one-on-one. It was this, first of all, I started to realize people had so many fears around foods, and they were petrified of carbohydrates. So they were on, away from carbs, but then I would notice they weren't seeing results. Their digestion wasn't, good, and they weren't energized, or they were going on the weekend and having all the carbs they could possibly eat anyway, which really undid the whole point of being carb free in the first place. So I started to just kind of look at like people's relationship with foods and why they would want to be on extreme diets, or why they only care about losing weight, which was really hard for me because a lot of clients, they just want to lose weight, and you can help them get there. The tactics are actually super easy for losing weight. It's maintaining weight loss that's really hard. So you would see the same clients coming back, they might lose weight for a few months, but then once they start going off on the weekend again, or they start, maybe they develop some kind of binging because they're so restricted that they would just have that yo-yo effect. And then I was on a trajectory of really just being consistent. And I realized I might not be ever at, the thinnest person in the room, or the, most shredded, but what about consistency? What about consistently feeling good, consistently having energy, consistently nurturing your body? So instead of always thinking that you need to be better or less, smaller, why not just focus on feeling good?
Interesting. That's so, yeah. And it like makes sense when you hear it, but I think at different stages in my life, particularly when I was younger, it's like, I think when I was a young girl, in my mind, I was always had a diet in a few months or something like that. Like even from like 15 onward, it was always like, oh, we're going to get ready for the summer. I've got a diet and things like that. And it was only a couple years ago where I was like, you know what? Like I'm just going to not diet, because like none of that has ever worked for me, like in your point, from a long-term perspective. The only time I've ever lost weight consistently, and this is amazing, I moved to France. My vivid memory of this is being so full almost after every meal, because I was eating so much food, and it was so delicious, and I could not keep weight on my body. But it was also just like my lifestyle was really different there. I wasn't eating junk food. Like I was eating really whole, nutritious meals. And and a few years ago, it kind of just clicked. Like I've never been able to diet. Like I've never enjoyed it. It's never served me. And I was like, I'm just not going to do that anymore. Yeah. But it comes up, like it's ingrained in us.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, it comes up. And I think, like I always say, everything I do, like I said, I made the studio because it's where I want to be. with my nutrition philosophy, that is now where I am because it's where I want to be. I always thought I needed to be better. And then as a fitness instructor, I was like, I need to look even better because people are going to be like, you know, coming to me for, you know, what results are. And they're going to say, oh, I don't want to look like her. I do want to look like her. So I always felt that extra pressure. But then I just realized I move because I like moving. I move to music because I love music. And I don't need to be this, you know, women's health magazine model to move. And I would never expect that from anyone else. So why would I expect it from myself?
Yeah. It seems like so revolutionary though, when you make that switch. It's like, why am I trying to get better? And what is better? Like, this might actually be the weight my body is meant to be at.
Right.
But there's this underlying like current of like, you're not good enough as you are or something in that mentality.
But it's even like getting to that point. If you do go on some sort of diet, once you get there, it's like, do you actually feel better? Do you feel better in your skin? Are you happier? Probably not. And then how do you sustain it? It just becomes this up and down effect. And I was actually doing an online workout yesterday, and then a YouTube video came on after, and it was this girl talking about how she lost 45 pounds and now she has this fitness kind of empire. I can't even remember her name, like Love Sweat something or something Love Sweat. And if I just ended up listening to it, and it spoke to me so hugely in this moment, because I feel like I've been struggling with this, is that she was just like, what's your why? Like, why about yourself? And like, why do you want to lose weight? Why do you want to fit into that dress? Like, actually dig in deeper with yourself and figure it out. And if you stop focusing on, say, a number or, you know, something a little more surface, and you realize, well, because I know I'll feel better, I'll have more energy, I know my digestion will be better, whatever it is, then you kind of stick to those things, and you'll naturally kind of like turn the corner and the page to be a bit healthier day by day.
Yeah. And a lot of it too is when you take away the pressure to be perfect, you just end up making better decisions because you're not frantic. So for me, I'll eat healthy knowing that this is not my last meal. I don't have to eat this same salad for 6 months. It's going to be fine. I can have a salad. I can have a sandwich. It doesn't really matter because it's all going to balance out because I'm not on a restrictive diet. I don't have any rules. I eat what I want to eat. And I really try to like, there's foods that I don't eat. I don't eat dairy. I don't eat meat. And some people might think that's restrictive, but for me, it just feels so good in my body that works for my particular body and my energy levels. I used to be vegan. Now I eat some seafood. Like, I just kind of go with the flow of what feels good for my body. And that's intuitive eating. And it takes a long time to get there because you have to fight those demons in your head that are telling you need to be. And let's face it, in our society, females are always expected to be smaller. And that really messed with my head for a long time because it was, you know, when I was growing up, it was like Kate Moss and, you know, then it was like Paris Hilton's and the Nicole Richie when she was super thin. Like, these are all the people that we were shown in magazines constantly. And they were the it girls. And I would hate to think that, like, you know, I was so influenced or like, but when you see images over and over and over again, it does start subconsciously, you're like, well, that I must lack self-control. I must not have, you know, I must eat too much, or I must, you know, not be disciplined enough to be thin.
Doing something wrong.
Right. And sometimes you're just, you know, you don't know how people get to those places that they are.
I don't want to know.
We don't want to know.
Do you know what else I find is interesting too, is that when you are trying to sustain eating healthier, or whether it's you kind of not eating dairy or meat, don't you find there's so much added pressure from whether it be friends or family to get you to stray off that path, when you think that they would be supporting you and say, oh, that's good. Like, no, don't eat that then. But don't you guys find that people kind of like force food on you sometimes?
Yeah. That's a lot of what my coaching is basically telling people that they need to make their own rules and be radical and stand up for themselves. And
Ooh, I
don't
like
use it
that.
as an excuse either. Cause I've had a lot of people, well, my husband doesn't like that. So I can't eat that. And I disagree. You can eat things that your husband doesn't eat. I've done it.
Yeah, that's a good point.
But,
So that's
I
something.
always say, like, don't, really get real.
It's kind of, and I think to your point, Ashley, it sounds like this radical mental shift of
Mm-hmm.
actually nourishing yourself
Mm-hmm.
for you. And like you're saying, Ashley, it's like rather than worrying about what other people want you to eat, it's like truly deciding what suits you and
Mhm.
what feels good and making that
Yeah.
kind of your nutrition.
Right. And
So
people will criticize, if it's new, and especially if they have maybe an insecurity about their eating, then they might project it onto you.
mm,
That's kind of what this girl was saying in that video, Anna, was exactly. And that's
Yeah.
kind of why she created this community, is that like you said, stand up for yourself and stay true to what makes you feel good. But
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I think that that's not easy for people. That's probably one of the hardest things, is just kind of like
Mm-hmm.
going through it. But yeah, it's kind of interesting. I don't know. It just like sprung. It's interesting that I heard that last night, and then we're having this conversation. It was meant to be.
Yeah.
so so you mentioned this quickly, like what
Mm-hmm.
is intuitive eating and like how do you teach that?
Yeah. Intuitive eating is actually, it sounds really easy, right? Just eat intuitively, but it's actually can be difficult for people because, again, our relationship with food is broken. So if you've been told several times that a certain food is good or a certain food is bad, or you were on a diet, you dieted as a child, all of those things are going to break your intuitive nature. Same with any kind of abuse, whether it be of your body or even of your psyche.
Mm.
Um, Breaking that relationship, that trust with your body. So trusting that when you're hungry, when you're full, what your body wants and needs. And you have the ability you're not a wild woman on the loose. You have the ability to control. And there's a book, I forget who wrote it, and I know it's like on the top of my tongue, but it's called Women, Food, and God, I think.
Ooh.
But it's a really good food about food addiction, and women with food addiction, because it really talks about, and I wish I could like quote the book properly, but I remember reading it years ago because it's about food addiction and about how we have all these misconceptions that we cannot control ourselves around food, that we can't be responsible with food, that we need rules, we need structure, or we're just going to be completely obese from not being able to stop eating. And
And,
That
and
sounds terrifying.
I do get that though, because when we were kids, like we were never allowed to have any junk food in our house. My mom she was an aerobics instructor, and Mom, I know you're gonna listen to this, so I'm sorry, but like she was nuts about food, and like you couldn't have junk food, or anytime you did, it was like a treat, or it was like you're gonna
yeah,
be, if you're not careful, you're gonna be chubby and things like
yeah,
it was just like there was always a risk if you were going to eat that, and things
right,
like that. Whereas I found my friends who grew up and had like junk food in the house, it was just around, they
yeah,
just didn't have that same compulsive need to like eat it.
right,
Mm.
yeah. It makes you want to rebel when you have a lot of rules.
Yes. Yeah. And actually, as you say that, anytime I've ever put myself on a diet, yeah, when you break it, is you go insane. You don't like
Right,
have a normal
Binge.
meal. You like go and binge and eat every terrible thing you can find.
right. It's like any addiction. That's why, like with alcohol, like relapsing, just say you've been sober. When you relapse, it's usually 10 times worse because, first of
Mm.
all, you're probably telling yourself this is just a one-time thing. I'm just
Okay.
going to do this once, so I'm going to make it worth it, and I'm going to do everything and eat everything. But if you're not, if you're able to moderate, and that's the thing with food, we have to. With alcohol, you can cut alcohol out, of course, and some people should, but with food, we can't cut food out. We have to learn to get in tune with what our body wants and needs. We have to in some way moderate. And I don't like saying moderate in a way of like a control thing, but like being able to say like, okay, maybe I'm craving more fats today. There could be a million reasons for that. And that's a great thing. There could be hormonal shifts that are happening. There could be, maybe you didn't eat a lot of calories the day before. So your body's looking for something a little more dense today. So I let that kind of shift day into day. Like I don't really follow any particular rules. So if I eat a late dinner that was really rich, I might not eat breakfast the next day because I'm not hungry. And maybe someone say, oh, you're skipping breakfast. It's the most important meal of the day. You're going to screw up your metabolism for the rest of the day. I don't really agree with that because I think that I would rather wait till my body signals that it's hungry, like any other animal in the wild would do, right?
It's so interesting. I love that because I don't know, we all grew up probably with a bit more of old school type of parents. And it's very breakfast, lunch, dinner at a certain time. And you need the big meal with the meat and the potatoes and the vegetables. But I know Sarah's kind of unstructured when it comes to mealtime to say, put that lightly.
I think in every area of my life.
But I think that's really good to just like be in tune with your body and listen to it if you do want something to kind of go with that. And I've had lots of late meals when I'm not hungry till mid-afternoon the next day.
Yeah, and I think that's fine. And sometimes people say, oh, there's intermittent fasting now where a lot of people are skipping breakfast because fasting is really a trend right now. Or it's not even right now, it's been for years. But I'm not against it if you're being intuitive. When I think that intermittent fasting, so if people don't know, intermittent fasting is where you might go 16 hours without eating, and then you would eat in an 8-hour time period. Some people extend that even longer, where they like don't eat for 20 hours and then they eat in a 4-hour period. And I know there's a lot of science around it and stuff like that, but screw science if you're miserable. I always say, so you need to do what works for you. Some days I do naturally fast because maybe the day, like I said, I ate later and I just am not hungry yet. So I might naturally fast. But then I find if I ever made rules around that, where I was like, okay, I'm going to fast every day for 16 hours, I guaranteed it would start to get this, dogmatic kind of pressure around it.
And I think that goes back to kind of what you were talking about too, is like, well, what is your goal? Is it to feel healthy and good in your body? Or is it because you're like on a regimented, must fit into these jeans or something like that, right?
Right. And then you always have to go back to like, must fit into these jeans. Why? Or, and when we have like to just be gaining a lot of weight, that does happen to people. Sometimes it's emotional eating. There are, there's different eating disorders where I can't just say that, like I said before, we have this fear that we're going to be out of control and just keep eating and eating. But that can be, if that is happening to you, that is something that you might want to seek some professional help around if you are having some kind of problem managing, binges or something like that. So that's not something that I'm just kind of like tossing to the side. Sometimes becoming an intuitive eater takes a lot of therapy. Sometimes you do have some hang-ups about food. And when I work with clients that are, say classified obese, a lot of times they were starting diets when they were 8, 9, 10 years old. Wow. So they don't know their intuitive nature was broken at such a young age that there's so much guilt and shame around food that that intuitive nature is just completely broken, which breaks my heart. And it does take a lot of digging deep to kind of get over hurdles like that. Maybe some therapy. Obviously I'm not a therapist, so that there's times where I tell people to reach out for more.
Yeah. And well, I think that goes back, you have to trust everyone listening to this. We are not advising anyone on what they should eat or how they should eat, but this is just kind of an open discussion about nutrition and nourishing our bodies. But yeah, you almost have to trust and kind of self-gauge where you are in your relationship with food, how you feel about how you're eating and how you feel in your body. Do you feel good? and energized and
right. And like, what are your reasons for what you wanting to diet? And a lot of like, when it comes to eating disorders, a lot of times it's more so women, but men can have eating disorders as well. And now more men are getting eating disorders because now they are, we are so obsessed with physical appearance now.
Yeah.
It's not just women. And, and then you really have to, think about that's one of the things that I'm really trying to work on and break, is just that obsession with a physical appearance and the kind of leverage you have at the closer you get to that box that society's deemed as acceptable, or even, beyond acceptable, like, revered. The closer you get to that, you can have power in that. So it's kind of like, it's one of those things that I'm trying to focus on, just breaking my connection to that.
Interesting.
For me, in the last few years, it really shifted around kind of what Sarah was saying as well. Just giving up and saying, I'm not going to try these diets because I was so sick and tired of starting over. And that there's got to be an actual way that I can just like sustain something and not feel like, oh, it's Monday again, or, oh, shoot, I ate that pizza and now I'm going to beat myself up about it. I got to go to the gym. And honestly, and it sounds so cliche, but once I stopped doing all that and doing all the HIIT workouts and the crazy stuff like that, I actually lost weight. Like in the last few years, I've weighed less. Not that weight matters, but I just mean like, I think removing that extra stress and maybe restraining calories, I don't know what it is. It made my body 10 times happier.
Yeah.
So it's really
probably
nice.
the same reason why Sarah was like losing weight in France. It's like she wasn't having a negative association with food, and she was moving more, and she was probably eating till she was full, and she was probably on a completely, I'm speaking for you now.
No, I was. Well, actually, to your point, like for me, it really matters where I am in the world and the kind of food I eat. And I will say I do really struggle in North America with food because my body naturally just doesn't do well with processed foods. I do really well when I'm in Europe because they don't have genetically modified food. Most stuff are coming fresh from a farm. It's not covered in pesticides. And then everything's being made fresh that day. It doesn't have a bunch of like preservatives or fillers and things like that in it. And I think whatever it is for my body type, for some reason, I really struggle with those things. Well, I don't struggle with them, but my body just doesn't process them easily. But when I go to places where, you're eating more kind of like off the land, there's less things added in our food. I'm just like my smallest self and my body feels great all the time.
So you need to buy a farm, Sarah, and just start living off the land. And
we'll move to Europe.
Or move to Europe. Well, yeah, that's definitely a thing, because North Americans are the ones struggling with weight, like at like huge exponentially. Exactly. Like and the more processed foods, your body just doesn't know what to do with them. They don't nourish your body. So you're still hungry because you got no nourishment out of the meals. So that's where, like, for me, when I went plant-based, I don't even think it's about I'm not saying it's about being plant-based. It's the fact that I was putting in so much nourishment that there wasn't enough room for processed stuff. And I think that when you go to European countries where they don't have all those snack foods, they actually just wait for meals and sit down and eat meals, and they're not eating all the chips and the junk food. And they have smaller, it's really interesting, the whole culture, because they walk a lot more. Their homes are smaller in Europe, so they don't have, like, I have a friend that lives in Italy, my brother-in-law is from England, and he's just like shocked at like the Costco. He's just like, why wouldn't you just buy your food like daily? Because their fridges are not big enough. They don't have deep freezes where they can like freeze all their processed food. So they are eating fresher. And like my friend who lives in Italy, I am always like shocked. I'm like, wow, like she just looks so vibrant, healthy, and she's like super fit and eats pasta for lunch every day. I'm like, okay, I'm moving to Italy.
Let's all go. Sarah will get over there, Scope and Soda spot.
We'll be perfect.
It's really interesting. And I think that I don't know, we're just so programmed to do that and buy those things at a convenience, and they're so unhealthy. And I don't like packaged foods like that. I don't know. Maybe some crackers. That's about it.
Yeah. I think
Well,
people cooked a lot more during the pandemic because I noticed that
Yeah.
some people were like coming out looking pretty great. Like, not again, not that it's about looks, but just like, you know, a lot of people were able to cook a lot more at home and kind of skip those drive-throughs.
Yeah. They didn't really have a choice. That's
and figure out what
good.
you like eating.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so I have one other question about this intuitive eating concept and just building better relationships with food. Well, now I've got two because I do
Okay.
want so
Yes.
how do we start getting into intuitive eating? Because right now, like I, I've kind of been into this for the last year where I'm trying to just pay attention more to what my body's drawn to rather than saying these foods are good for me, these foods are bad for me. Because I
Mm-hmm.
don't, anytime I put myself, like you said, in one of those boxes, it's
Mm-hmm.
never quite a fit. And I don't know what, I've never been to a naturopath. I've never like gone to see what foods are good for me and which
Mm-hmm.
ones aren't. But how do we start making that bond better in terms of like maybe connecting with our intuition more? Because I find like right now going from, you know, we've been released into the wild. I've had ice cream twice this week, sugar,
Mm-hmm.
things like that. You have those cravings initially. And I almost think like you need to get through a period where you break those before you can
Yeah.
kind of reconnect to what you want.
Yeah, I agree. And that's like one of my programs is a reset. And it kind of seems extreme when you first do it because, you know, we cut out dairy and gluten and all kinds of like we cut out all processed foods essentially.
Mm-hmm.
And, but I'm kind of cautious with this is not me trying to like make you super restricted. It's just breaking that addiction.
Addiction.
Sugar is actually addictive. Something like ice cream, super addictive because it's got the texture, the sugar, the fat. It's like, you know, so addictive. And there's nothing wrong with having ice cream once in a while, but it's like, is it serving your health? How do you feel afterwards? So I try to get people to focus on how foods make them feel
Hmm.
so that you're not punishing yourself by not eating something. You're actually rewarding yourself with feeling good.
Mm, well, I like
Okay.
that. Because you
And
could
real
actually be drawn to ice cream every single day for the reasons you just said, Anna, but
right.
that doesn't mean you should listen to that intuition that that's what you want.
Right. And you could like, you know, there's an addiction, like maybe in the moment, if you were just say doing something like smoking a cigarette, in the moment, it might feel really great, but is it serving your health? Is it making you feel good later? Is, you know,
Hmm.
so it's fine to have, you know, a balanced nutrition, but also like balanced nutrition does mean that you need to balance it on the favor of yourself and your well-being, your health. Food is a form of self-care. So when we're caring about ourselves, we're taking time to prepare meals. We're taking time to have those things at home. We're preparing vegetables. We're worth it. It's worth it to take the extra time to kind of prepare this meal that looks really nice. Maybe it's
Hmm.
you know, I used to take pictures of my food all the time. And I stopped because it's like this, probably running out of
You
salad ideas.
did lots of
Yeah.
salad shots. I
I
remember
used to
this
do a
now.
lot of salad shots. And now I don't know why. I'm like, is that trend over? Cause I don't,
No, bring it
cause
back.
yeah, I
Bring it
think
back,
bring it
Anna.
back. Yeah. I'm like, I feel kind of like I'm like, out of fashion by posting food pics, but,
No.
yeah, it's about nurturing your body with food. So you're essentially punishing yourself if you're just eating foods that make you feel horrible. And maybe, you know, having ice cream a couple times doesn't make you feel horrible. That's fine. But I certainly think if your diet is 80% toxic foods, you will feel bad at some point. And you might not be able to do all the things you want to do and have the energy that you want to have, or it could be reflected in your sleep or your sex drive, your relationships. So it's trying to pick foods that really serve who you want to be and what you want your life to look like.
And make you feel good. Okay. So initially then when we're starting
Mm-hmm.
embarking on this journey of
Yeah.
eating things that make us feel good,
Yeah.
you're saying it probably makes sense to try to cut out kind of processed foods maybe at the beginning and just try to start eating
Right.
more simply to reconnect with what makes
Yes.
sense in your
I
body.
say always go back to whole foods.
Okay.
Just go back to whole foods. They're Mother Nature made foods perfectly fine, and she wants you to eat them that way. So it's like whole foods. I use avocado mashed up for salad dressing instead of ones that have tons of preservatives and salts and sugars. It's not that I don't ever use them. I've even started, She Glows has a really good cookbook, and she has like some good salad dressings. Like I started soaking my own cashews and making my own Caesar dressing, which is really good on
I had
salad.
that
So,
last night.
oh, you did? It's so
Glows
You
good.
guys are
so
beyond
good.
me.
It's so good.
No one would ever know what was in it. It just tastes like creamy, delicious Caesar dressing.
I know. And like when I first started on this journey, I was like, I'm not going to be soaking cashews. Like I'm not that crazy. But now I'm like, this is awesome and affordable and healthy. Like
It's
you
so
could buy,
creamy.
yeah, you can buy a bag of raw cashews and soak them, make your own dressing. But yeah, going back to whole foods is the best way to kind of break that chain.
Okay.
And you will have those days, like in the first few days, just take note of what you feel like. Because sometimes you will have that headache, that lethargicness, that like tight. I always, when I know I've been eating too much sugar and I'm detoxing off sugar, I'll get like a tight jaw, like just crazy detox. But then it's like you're able to kind of, then you crave those foods. If you like to eat, eating whole foods is the best thing to do because you can eat a lot more when it's not processed.
So true.
Totally. Okay.
Yeah.
I love that. I think breaking that cycle is so important. Yeah.
Right. And adding things in instead of focusing, and this is kind of like an old school trick that I didn't invent, but adding things in instead of focusing on taking things out. So if you're like, I'm adding a green smoothie every day, I'm going to have it for breakfast. Chances are once you have that green smoothie, you're not then going to feel like going to have a muffin too. You might have that craving later, but like really saying, I'm going to have a big salad every day. I'm going to have a green smoothie every day. And then I'm going to make a healthy dinner. And if you commit to those things, you might kind of edge out the other things or not have space for them. You know what I mean? So add in so you can kind of crowd out the bad stuff. And then, well, not, and I don't even like saying bad, but the things that don't serve you physically. And it's not just food. There's alcohol. There's, like I said, cigarettes before. So I just want people to realize that we say no good foods and no bad foods. People don't like using that language because of the stigma and that diet mentality. But there's also things that don't serve your health long term. Just because they're really fun and really great doesn't mean that they're going to serve you long term.
Totally. I think right now I'm in a phase where like I'm loving that we're having this conversation right now because I've been feeling like a bit out of sorts with my food. And it's because I've been, we've been let loose and I've been out and eating out again. And we've had a barbecue. We had a hot dog barbecue the other day where we ate nothing but hot dogs. Like I haven't had a hot dog in years. And
that's fine. The most processed. Yeah.
Yeah. But it's also like, now I'm trying to think of what my body wants. And I can feel that I'm just like, I can't even connect to like what I'm craving. And so, yeah, I need to go back to like stopping all the craziness, just eating, like you said, whole foods. That I'm loving that. And then even things like cutting out alcohol for a little bit. I'm never going to cut out alcohol all the time, but like, no, I go through phases where it's just not interesting to me.
Right. Yeah.
And I think the more you drink it, the more less interesting it becomes because you're just like, I'm not looking forward to that glass of wine or that special drink because I had one yesterday.
Yeah, exactly. And you can drink alcohol or you can not. Like I again, if it works for you and you can have alcohol, that's great. If it doesn't work for you, then you might need to cut it out. Same with like anything, like dairy might work for some people and not work for others. So I think that's part of being intuitive, of just knowing like what's serving you, what's not serving you. And sometimes keeping a little journal kind of helps too, because you can say like, oh, I felt really good that week that if you're food journaling and you're keeping track, keeping yourself accountable to having the green smoothie or having the salad every day, you could pick one new thing that you're going to kind of add for a week. Then you can reflect back on how you felt when you did that. And did it make you feel better? Or did you say, maybe I'm better off having, a smoothie midday and not in the morning. So it's kind of like finding what works for you and your body and using yourself as a guinea pig. That's what I've always done.
I
I
love
really like,
this.
yeah, I love it too. And I love the point of just that self-care, even preparing the meals and doing all those things is something you're doing for yourself, because I find, and Sarah knows this all the time, we'll have something, her and Jeff, for example, will be like, we really need an ice cream. And then I'm
Mm-hmm.
like, yeah, like ice cream in my head. I'm like, this sounds great. Like we're together, we're having fun. And then I have it and I'm like, I didn't even like that. Like, why did I eat that?
Yeah.
But you don't take that moment to pause. And I think it
Mm-hmm.
takes practice to say like, do I really want that?
To be
Yeah.
fair, the only time Jeff and I were together and said we wanted an ice cream was literally last August.
No, it was just when we were in Cape
She's
Breton.
scarred for life.
Oh yeah, Jeff and I did want an ice cream. We were in Cape Breton,
But
and
I
you know
just
what?
don't like, sometimes I just don't, I need to like be more selfish, I think, sometimes, and be like,
Yeah.
what do I want? Because I get in these situations where I'm like, but I don't really want to do that. I don't know. So I feel like a lot of people probably struggle with that as well, because even if they have a spouse, my husband eats very healthy and is in great shape, but someone that isn't eating and kind of abiding by these ways that they want to live, and then they kind of get sucked into it that way too. Like I feel like it's a self-care thing that you really need to just like stay in tune with and kind of like do things like you said, Anna, because it's right for you. It doesn't matter who else it's right or wrong for.
Yeah, totally. And like that at that ice cream example, such a good example because I don't eat ice cream, obviously. Like maybe I'd eat the just because I don't
Coconut
eat
ice cream.
dairy.
Yeah.
Yeah, and they usually if you're going out for an ice cream at like, on the road somewhere, it's not going to be like a cashew milk ice cream. So my kids will get it, my husband will get it, and I don't even think twice about it anymore because it hurts my stomach. So it's just like, if you were allergic to peanut butter and you saw someone eating a peanut butter sandwich, you wouldn't be like, oh, okay, I'm going to have a bite this time. You know what I mean? So
No.
it's like you kind of just get used to eating what works for you. And I have my own things that make me excited, like
Mm.
they might not want to eat. I love having my coffee in the morning. That's a great, delicious treat. That sounds really lame. I'm trying to think of something
I
else,
know.
but
I'm like, Anna,
Your
don't
green
come out with
smoothie.
like
yeah,
a green smoothie as
yeah,
like
yeah,
your nourishing
But like
thing that
maybe
you're
yeah.
like a
excited
nice
about.
homemade. I just made some nice like protein nut balls, and like to me that like
Right.
makes my mouth water. I'm like, oh, it's gonna be so satisfying.
Something like that, like
Or
having a little
mini
dark
eggs, Ashley.
chocolate or like, yeah,
Or
mini
mini eggs.
eggs. Yeah, so you just kind of make like find what works for you and what's in, and then that intuition comes, and you don't feel like you're being cheated when you're feeling great and your results are great, and you don't have a fear of not, a fear from food. So sometimes people are like, well, they're getting ice cream, I want to have ice cream. If I don't have it, then I'm never going to have it again. This is my one chance. It can get out of control where everything's your special chance.
Amazing. So it's more about, I love this shift that it's more about like this concept of intuitive eating. It's more about actually learning what makes you feel good
Yeah.
and reconnecting to food in that way rather than how we look.
Yeah, and what you actually really like. Like,
Yeah.
what
Or
do
what
you
we're,
like?
yeah, rather than like the
Love
rules
that.
of what's good and bad.
Mhm.
Right.
Okay. So how does all this then connect to something like body image?
Well, I had, okay, so I was just thinking about this, and I have to, again, I need to find a source for it. I should have written this stuff down, but it's just kind of coming in my brain. But I was working with a holistic energy worker at one point because I was,
Nothing could be more up my alley, first of
yes,
all.
Elizabeth Hurst. She's amazing. It was when I was personal training at Good Life, and I knew and I was already being an intuitive, I was already teaching clients and working as a transformational nutrition coach in my own business, but I was still doing some personal training. And I was like, I didn't know where I wanted to go with my business, but I also had some personal hurdles that were holding me back from my own happiness. And we were working through them. And then one day I just started having this perfectionism really blocking me. I didn't feel like I was good enough. I didn't feel like I looked good enough. I didn't feel like I'd ever looked good enough or I ever was going to. And I was just not good enough. That was just it. It was like pounding in my head. Like, you just are subpar, basically. You're subpar physically, you're subpar in life. And then she just looked at me and she was like, who would you be without that thought? If you did not carry that thought around, how would you feel when you walk into a room? And I started to think about all these situations. Like, who would I be without that thought? If I just say, you throw away the mirror, you throw away the selfie stick, you throw away, the scale, and you just assume that you are the hottest version of yourself and the most vibrant, sexy version of yourself. And that's a fact. Pretend that the numbers say it's a fact. And you walk into a room with that energy, would you have more time, a better time with your friends and your family? Would you enjoy family dinners more if you weren't beating yourself up about, not having a flat stomach while you're eating a family dinner? So for me, letting go of perfectionism really was like, I'm so committed to it. And I'm not saying it doesn't pop up still, but I'm really, really committed to it because I cannot be happy if I'm trying to be somebody else.
That's so real. I think so many people, I can relate to that. I bet a lot of people listening can relate to that as well. And it's kind of like the thief of your joy, if that's kind of what's taking over in your mind, like comparing yourself. Isn't that the quote? Like, comparison is the thief of joy.
Yeah.
So it's like, just focus on feeling good. But I think it's a mental thing. Like you said, you went and talked to this healer. So I think that it's something we all have to work on consciously.
It is. And as like perfectionism is also self-sabotage. So for me, I was taking perfectionism so literally that I was like, if I'm looking at a magazine and this is what society tells me is perfect, I'm literally doing the math on how far I am from that. Right. So that's where like, I'm like looking at it and I'm saying, okay, I'm 5'5". I'm more athletic build. I'm like, this person's 6 feet tall with thin legs. So I'm this, so let's, taking a running tally of how far from perfect I actually am.
Yeah.
And now having a daughter, I realize how sick that is because she's 7 and she's, I can see her slowly looking at her body in a different way. And there's still those images out there, and I'm trying to, build confidence in her and lead by example, really just trying to lead by example and not be criticizing myself or trying to change myself unnecessarily.
I think that's like a big inspiration for a lot of parents is you don't take time to realize maybe how you treat yourself or talk about yourself until you have children. Then you realize like, I don't want them to think about themselves the way I think about myself.
Right. Like if you're telling yourself like, oh, my legs are fat. What would you do if a little girl, and I've seen my daughter even say that because, just looking on, she's seen like Ariana Grande on TV and been like, oh, why are her legs so much skinnier than mine? And I'm like, okay, and that's why we have to be so careful about the media we consume. And of course, as a parent, that'll be a whole different podcast, but on the media that your children consume. But it's right there it's that comparison of like, what's on a pedestal and how do I compared to this pedestal that's out there?
Yeah,
so
you're
you
right.
just need to stay away from it. Just screw the pedestal and just make your own version of yourself because you're the one that you don't want to waste your life not being happy.
Yeah, as we're talking about this, it's kind of just becoming clear in my mind that we all have relationships with food. We all have relationships with self-image. And as we're having this conversation, like I haven't reflected on what my associations are with those things probably enough because like we're having this and there's like edgy parts of this conversation for me, right? And this is super helpful even just to realize like, right, we all have relationships and associations and they're going to be different, but it's worth probably taking the time to actually sit down and think about like, what are my beliefs around this? And
right. And
what do I think about myself?
Right. And I think that is actually like where like your original question of like, how do you intuitively eat? I think it really does come with how do you see yourself? How do you see your body? How do you see, are you fueling your body? Are you moving? Are you happy? Are you eating for fun and then eating to make yourself feel good and sleep good and, have good hormones and all of that stuff? When you just start kind of going with the flow of who you are as a human being, as a woman or a man, then once you start feeling that, it's like your relationship with food will change because you're advocating for yourself and you're loving yourself. You're not hating yourself or eating to change yourself.
It's kind of that connection with yourself, that if you are just kind of frantically eating and doing things and living an unhealthy lifestyle, you're not really connecting with like what you want and who you are. So it sounds so simple, but it's something I think that we all need to kind of, like Sarah just said, that kind of like clicked for her to be like, okay, how do I reconnect with this?
Yeah.
It's been such a great conversation. I love this so much.
I know, it's so eye-opening, and I'm this is a big conversation, and everyone's got a different relationship with food and their body and things. And I think it's been, it feels revolutionary, or it did to me a few years ago. And I don't even know how I came to it, where I was like, quite literally just like, fuck dieting. I'm not doing this anymore. Like, it just makes no sense in my mind. And I don't know how I got there, but I did decide that. And that was like a liberating thing. And actually just trying to let myself, start eating.
Right.
I think that's a good
Yeah.
decision to have made, Sarah. And I'm right there with you.
Yeah. And anytime you have the urge to go against that, really say, what's going on in my life right now where I might be feeling insecure or feeling like I'm not good enough. And I think that's where like a lot of people think eating disorders or anorexia is about being thin. It's not. It's a control thing or a self-worth thing, or there's so much behind it. It's not just about, it's so much deeper than that.
Totally.
And like some people are naturally thin, so I don't want to forget about those people, because I've had a conversation on my Instagram the other day with someone who's naturally thin, who had been criticized for that and called anorexic. But, of course, society is going to figure out a way to control that as well by, do you need breast implants? Do you need butt implants? It's like, so it's like you can't win. You just have to dig deep inside.
Totally.
I love this. This has been so good and such a good conversation. I think right now, like Sarah said, we're back in summer mode. Everything's open back up, and it's kind of like a good way to transition and connect with yourself, like through this conversation. It's helped me, so I hope it's helped everyone else listening as well.
Yes.
And Anna, before we move into our favorite time
the game,
the episode, the game, we want to know what lights you up right now. What are you the most excited about?
I think that I'm actually just really, like I said, I'm really into this whole like, getting in touch with just like being free from, perfectionism, and being free from just being in the fitness industry and nutrition industry. I spent so much time thinking that I needed to be perfect, or no one was going to trust me as an expert, because, you have to be perfect. And I just want to be happy and free and present. And to be present, I need to get outside of my own perfectionism and just be in the moment. So it's really lighting me up to be in these smaller group settings now. Even like I said, my class size is smaller now because of the pandemic, and I'm like connecting on a new level. And I'm really trying to just take my, just let go of those insecurities, perfectionism, just be in the moment, enjoy every moment that I can.
I like that.
I love that so much. Makes me happy.
Oh, me too.
You're speaking our language, Anna.
You guys are awesome.
We're with you on that one. All right. It is time for Westigrams, which is one of our favorite games. It's super easy, Anna. It's made up. All you do is pick a number between 1 and 88, and I'll ask you a question, and we'll go around. We'll all do one.
Okay. 7.
7. Ooh, that's nice. Nice. And I was going to say early, but it's not early. It's like low. That's what I was like. Low. I was like, it's not early. All right. Someone is meeting you at the airport and you can go anywhere. Where are you going?
Oh, goodness. Oh my gosh. Like a time like this. Ooh, okay. I've been watching Below Deck on Bravo.
Amazing.
So I want to go on a yacht in the Mediterranean and have a private chef and lay out and drink spicy margaritas.
Let's all go. We'll go to Italy on the way, and then we'll go on the boat.
Totally.
I'll come with you.
We'll
that sounds
ourselves.
amazing.
Yes.
I totally love that.
That's
I
great.
love that.
That
That'd be a
sounds like my
dream.
dream.
Yeah.
All right, Ash, what number would you like?
Oh, Sarah, I'm going to go with 88 because I feel like that's a new one,
Ooh.
maybe.
Did you just put this in here today?
No, I didn't. I didn't,
What
but I thought we usually.
What emoji do you use the most? Yeah, you did put this
I put it in
here.
there like last week. I would say the heart right now.
Mhm.
Lots
The
of
heart
red, like the
emoji?
classic red heart emoji. Yeah.
And
What
what's
about
the
you?
faded heart? Like, you know, the heart, how they have the shiny heart and now they have like the matte heart.
Yeah.
I don't know if I've seen that.
Does that mean anything? Because I'm always like, am I using like a
The
secret
wrong heart?
Yeah.
Are you on iOS? Are you Android?
No.
I use the matte heart that you're talking about, Anna, all the time.
Yeah. Send
don't
it
know
to
what that is.
Ashley and let her. Yeah.
It's just not shiny. But to be honest, I always want to use the yellow heart and I just can't find it in my keyboard and I just give up and use the red
Don't you
one.
find that frustrating? Sometimes I can't find where like you keep scrolling through the pages trying to find a specific emoji.
Yeah.
Rough life.
Anna,
Hard
what
times.
emoji do you use most often?
I use the heart a lot. I use the kiss
Oh,
a
love that.
lot.
Kissy face.
And I use the thank you a lot.
Like the prayer hands.
The prayer hands.
Oh,
I
yeah,
hope
I like
that
that too.
means thank you. 'Cause,
It means whatever you want.
yeah.
I love that. Those
What
are
about
my
you,
favorite.
Sarah? What do you?
The
like?
hands up. The 2 hands up. I use
Oh
that
yeah,
one all
love
the
that.
time.
That's a good fitness one too.
Amazing.
I love that one so much. All right, I'm going to go with I'm just picking like something random. I'm going to go with number 30. What is your favorite way to cook an egg? Oh my God. Poached egg. Love it. So good.
You make good poached eggs.
I always poach eggs. Like I refuse to eat them any other way most times.
Wow.
So
And
good.
that's kind of hard too.
It's easy. My mother taught me. So poor mom, I gave her a hard time early in the episode. Here, I'll give her some love. You do it in a pan instead of a big pot, and you just have like a couple of inches of water, and it's so much easier. Just put it in and scoop it out.
I love this tip.
And
Thank
I
you,
love that
Mom.
Sarah puts them on a paper towel after too, because I hate at a restaurant when they scoop them out and they put them in a bowl and there's like 3 tablespoons of water. So
I love
you'll have to
this
do
tip.
a demo on this someday, Sarah, on Instagram.
I'll show everyone how to make a great poached egg.
Yes.
Anna, this has been so amazing to have you on and just explore this conversation. I'm just loving this. I feel like we can keep talking about this forever.
So relatable.
So relatable. I'm really excited to hear what everyone
loved
thinks
it.
about this episode. Where
Me
can
too.
people find you?
Well, they can find me my personal Instagram. I love Instagram. It's like my main hangout. Yeah. So fun. So at Anna Townsend Fit is my personal. So that's just where I used to post my salad pictures. So maybe I'll start posting more. It'll motivate me to eat lots of salads. And you can follow me at the Fitness Room HFX too. That's where I post all my fitness stuff and about my studio.
I love that. And if
and
people
lots
want
of lives and stuff, right, Anna? That people can do along with.
Yes. Yeah. And we're really on a body image kick right now. So I'm interviewing a lot of people on my lives about of all different shapes and sizes and races about body image and beauty standards.
Ooh,
we'll have to check that
out.
out.
So excited. So if you have not already, follow Anna and definitely hit up the fitness room. Ash and I are going to go out we've been missing you. We have to come out for bar.
First class is free. So no excuses.
Okay. Well, we will inevitably go together and we will do it.
Yes.
Yay. That's awesome.
I love this. Thanks so much, Anna. This has been great.
Thank you guys so much. Talk to you soon. Okay. Bye.